Reading with your kids.
Hey, so great to see you. Come on in. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast, coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so happy that you're a part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, on iTunes, or wherever you find your podcast. Our guest today is Anjanta Chakraborty. She's going to be talking to us about her wonderful book, Let's Celebrate Ganesha's Birthday. You know, I'm really excited to have Anjanta on the show to talk about her book and also to talk about how we can raise our kids to have empathy for others and understanding of other cultures and respect for other cultures. And I'm also really excited to let you know I have a brand new school assembly program that does just that. It's called We Will Roar. Respect others and read. You know, we know that choosing to be respectful and to treat others with the respect that we want others to treat us is a great first step towards building a safe and caring learning environment. We also know that encouraging our kids to read not only helps them become better readers, but it also helps them to improve their emotional intelligence and increase empathy. We want to combine this idea of choosing to be respectful and reading and building that emotional intelligence and that empathy to work together to help build safe and caring learning environments. I'm really happy that folks who've hosted the show are so positive about the show. Sister Mary Watson, who's a principal at St. Patrick's School down in McGowan, Tennessee, she had this to say. She said, Jedley came to our school and gave the most entertaining presentation to our students. We were all engaged and enthralled from the beginning to the end. His show helped every child to feel important and valued. And I just love that. I love that I'm able to use my magic to help every child feel important and valued. And I love that I can use my magic to inspire kids to help others feel important and valued as well. If you would like to learn how you can bring this program to your community, please visit WeWillRoar.com. That's WeWillRoar.com. Joining us on the line right now from Chicago in Illinois. I am really, really excited. This is we're talking about a picture book, but also we're talking more about a movement, and it's a movement that I can definitely get behind. The book we're going to start our conversation with is called Let's Celebrate Ganesha's Birthday. Please welcome to the show, Anjanta Chakraborty. Anjanta,
thank you.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. I get through the name okay?
Yes, you did great.
All right. Well, I'm really excited to hear all about Let's Celebrate Ganesha's Birthday.
Sure, absolutely. We essentially write books about the Indian culture for little kids. And the goal is raise multicultural kids. And so this is our ninth book of the series. And we're finally making our way into the mythology. And so this is pretty much our first book that specifically talks about Indian mythology for the whole book. And it's essentially this huge celebration that happens in India. And they celebrate Ganesha, who's one of the Hindu gods, his birthday. And it goes on for many days, as is the tradition for a lot of the other festivals in India. And there is just the whole fun aspect of it. There are these massive statues that are placed and then immersed on the last day. There's food, there's dance, there's all this fun stuff. And the reason that we always talk through festivals is because kids love celebration. Mm-hmm. And so it provides like a perfect entry into learning about a different culture. And so we have other books on festivals as well, but this book also sort of talks about festival and the celebration aspect to get the kids excited and learn more about a different culture.
I think that's so important, and I think it's really important for our kids to be introduced to different cultures, but especially Indian culture, because I think for a lot of folks in the United States, unless you're living where there's a large population of folks from India, it's a culture that's really not known all that well, and it is a huge culture there. I think India is the second most populous country in the world. Am I right about that?
That is correct. And it literally has subcultures. Like there's no even one way to really define India. Mm-hmm. So you'd have to go to different regions to kind of find these subcultures that are completely distinct from each other. And that's why, we keep writing book after book, because with each one of them, we can only highlight a certain aspect of the culture.
Yeah. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I think I heard the number was, there are 28 official languages in India.
That is correct. And I don't know how many of the dialects. I think they go in thousands. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a country, like I said, with so many different cultures, languages, food, cuisines. I mean, you talk about it. There is this insane amount of variety in that country.
And I think it's important for kids to learn about all different cultures, but I think it's especially important for us to learn where there's this just such a huge, like I said, just this huge population, and our kids should be familiar with folks from India, because India is having more and more of an impact on the world. They're branching out. They're flexing their economic muscle, their cultural muscles. People, I think, would be surprised to find out that there are more movies made in Bollywood than there are in Hollywood.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We actually talk about that in our Mumbai book about this as well. Because it's absolutely true. Movies are such an essential part of Indian living. And essentially for some people who have, let's say, a harder life, the movie is an escape. And that's how they have been used in Bollywood for the longest time. Now we're seeing more of a change where the movies are starting to talk about, some of the tougher issues as well. But for the longest time, they were an escape. And so that's why you see so many songs and dances, and which is kind of part of the Indian culture anyway. But they also get reflected in the Bollywood movies, which are just so fun.
Talk a little bit about why you think it's so important for us to raise multicultural kids.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the times. We can no longer stay in our own little shell, interact with only people who look like us, who talk like us, who live like us. It's just the whole world has become so assimilated in some way. And it is super important for kids to gain an understanding of that. And these books are just one way, but there are so many ways that people should just go out, embrace other cultures, whatever they can experience, do it, because it'll be necessary. Especially in the recent times, I think it's become even more important to really understand when you're living in a country that has such a huge immigrant population, it's important to understand them. And I think that's kind of why, raising multicultural kids is so important, because that's the only option. You cannot do it any other way anymore. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I like to think of it, and I love to, this is going to sound silly, so I apologize in advance, but I love to snorkel. And we have family down in Puerto
Mm-hmm.
Rico, and they're wonderful. And they always, you can't snorkel in Boston Harbor. It's too dark, and you don't want to see what's on the bottom of the harbor anyways. But down in Puerto Rico, you go out and you snorkel, you see all these beautiful fish and the coral and all that. But the thing about snorkeling, you have that mask on, and so you have a very limited perspective. And so you can only see what's in that mask. And I had an experience one time where I was out swimming, and I'd swam away from the boat, and all of a sudden this giant fish just swam underneath and into that perspective, and it scared the life out of me. I didn't know if it was a shark or a whale or just a big fish. But you're limited when you're out snorkeling. You're limited to that little vision, the little view you have through your goggles. And that's fun when you're in the water, but you don't want to live your life like that. You don't want your kids to live their life like that. You want them to be able to see the whole spectrum of life, and to understand that people have different perspectives and their experience in the world is different. And I think if we have a better understanding of that and better empathy of where people are coming from, it's going to help us solve a lot of the problems that we're seeing in the world today, and hopefully bridge a lot of the divisions that are happening.
You couldn't have said it better. That was a fantastic example. And I wholeheartedly agree with the entire sentiment. That's exactly why we do what we do. And of course, there's the second advantage of doing this kind of work is helping kids who are of Indian origin, but who are growing outside of India, help them connect to their roots. And it's also very important. For a lot of them, they kind of go through this bit of an identity crisis where they don't quite know how to place themselves. And when they see themselves being represented in whether it's literature or media or wherever, it gives them a sense of validation, and it also helps them really understand where their cultural roots are coming from. Of course, for our books, they're written for little kids, so they're written in a way which is still fun and engaging. But at the same time, every time a kid who, if we would be called brown, if they open a book and they see a brown kid in there as a lead character, I think there's also a huge sense of validation that comes from just seeing that. So I think we're kind of trying to do, we have kind of two missions here. It's raise multicultural kids and help, connect kids to their roots better.
And that's so important. We've talked a lot on the show about representation and kids seeing themselves in the pages of books or on movie screens or in television screens. And I think it is really powerful. And I think it's also really important for kids of different races and cultures to see, white kids. It's important for white kids to see brown kids and black kids in the pages of books, so that we can first and foremost understand that we're all human beings.
Yes, absolutely. This is why we launched our YouTube channel as well last year, by the way. That was kind of the goal is, literature is great, books are great, but we live in a digital world, and it's hard to kind of escape from that. And so the YouTube channel is actually geared exactly towards that. It's all cultural education. We produce our own songs, our own animations, our own stories. And if you go over there, it's all free because it's on YouTube. And it's 100% just fun, pure cultural education for little kids. And we've been getting some really great response there as well. So it's really nice to see that.
I think one of the advantages, and I want to talk a little bit more about YouTube channel, but I think one of the advantages of your books, since you're covering different parts of India, is not only introducing kids of different cultures to India and Indian people, but also helping them understand that when you say Indian people, you just can't pigeonhole and say, well, all Indian people like this and all Indian people like that, because you can't even say all Indian people speak the same language because it's such a diverse place.
Yep, absolutely. And so that, like I said, we're, with each book, we're trying to capture just a tiny portion of the culture. Of course, the books that do really well are the ones that are the most popular concepts. So, for example, Diwali. We were shocked. Our book ranked 387 in all of 8 million books on Amazon. And to us, that was such a huge reaffirming phenomenon to see. These more popular concepts, of course, do really well. But we also want them to, other than knowing about Diwali and Holi, other than knowing about Bombay and Delhi, I also want them to know about Vaisakhi, which is a harvest festival from the state of Punjab, a much lesser known festival and region, if you will. But once they start to get to know, then they kind of explore and discover all these other dimensions in the culture and the other aspects of it. So yeah, it's been such a fun journey in trying to bring these different aspects and lessons kind of in life through our books.
Before we get back to talking about the YouTube channel, was there a certain thing or a certain experience that inspired you to start this journey?
Absolutely. So I started with a dance company. So I'm an engineer, a computer scientist who was in Silicon Valley, worked in the geekiest of places. I loved my work as well. And then one day I gave it all up and I started a dance company. Because my goal was to bring culture through movement. But the thing we did with our kids' dance classes, they were always one of a kind because we also included cultural concepts. And in the beginning, I would make these sad PowerPoints by myself, print them out, take them to class and talk to the kids about it, intermixed with the dance. And then at some point, it was actually my husband, Vivek Kumar. His idea. He said, why do they have to come to your class to consume this content? This content should be made available everywhere. And that's when was the first time where we decided to productize it. We took those content, developed the characters, created the whole series, and that's where Maya Neal book series, that just the idea came from, is actually it came through our dance classes. So right now, there are like 250 students who we teach in Chicago all year round, and in their classes, they're actually learning a dance, and they're also learning from our books, all kind of intermixed with each other, to give them a much bigger context, so it's not just about the dance, it's not just about the stories, it's this beautiful mixing of the movement and the stories that creates an amazing experience for them.
I love that. I think that's brilliant, because I always was frustrated with the kids, you'd go and you'd learn dance, you learn tap, and that's it. And you'd go to baseball, and you just talk about baseball. But, there's so many ways. If you have a kid who loves baseball, that's a great way to get the kids hooked on reading, because there's lots and lots of books about baseball. And if you have a kid that loves to dance like you've created, it's a great way to introduce kids to culture, to stories, to telling stories through dance, to being creative through dance. And so I'm really happy that you're doing that, and that it's more than just a dance. It's like a whole kind of human experience.
Yeah, it's an immersion by itself. And I think that's why parents and educators, and of course kids as well, they love it so much, because there's so much variety. It keeps them hooked. But at the same time, they're learning so much from it. Yeah. And of course, my second reason was, when I became a parent myself. So I have a 5-year-old son. And of course, watching him grow in here, trying to find his own place in the world, that also kind of inspired us to keep doing this work. You will see him in our videos and the last page of the book. And he's very proud of his association.
That's beautiful. Now tell us, let's talk a little bit more about the YouTube channel and what we can find there.
Absolutely. So they're sort of complementary to our books. So, if we have written a book about Diwali, if you go to the YouTube channel, you will see that we have we wrote a song, which essentially is the same tune as 12 Days of Christmas, but instead it talks about 5 days of Diwali. So what we try to do is we try to bridge the gap and make the concepts more appealing and familiar to them. So when a kid hears that song, they're like, oh wait, I know the tune. But then they listen to the words and go, oh, this is a whole new festival, but also celebrated over multiple days. So on the channel, you will find a dance that we have done to this song. There'll be a story time where I'm actually, telling them about Diwali. And then there is a recipe, which is like a fun food that you can make around this time. We create activity kits and lesson plans that are available for download from our website, which are heavily used by parents and educators. So the goal is essentially to create a complete toolkit. So you start with the book. If you believe in digital toolkits, then you go to the YouTube channel. You get the classroom kit if you are an educator who wants to introduce this concept. And that's kind of how you do it. So we're trying to build the whole toolkit for everybody.
That's wonderful. Now, where are folks needing to go on YouTube? What do they need to search to find your videos?
Oh, just type Culture Groove. That's the name of the brand that we created last year. Once we decided the books needed to have a life of their own, so we spun them out of Bollywood Group, which is the dance company. And so now you can find the books as well on culturegroove.com, as well as the YouTube channel is named the same.
That's awesome. Now, I'm wondering, is there interest in your books in India? Because we talked about how big India is, and there's all these different languages and groups, and there's tension between some of the groups and areas. Has there been interest in India to pick up on these books and videos?
Absolutely. So there definitely, we have 2 YouTube channels, and one of them is more popular in India. And combined, I think we've received about, 27 million views on the channels. So people are definitely liking the content. And the books is the same. Thanks to Amazon, we are available in 12 different countries, and India being one of the strong markets for us as well. But I have to say my biggest joy, I think, comes from seeing when people in the US or UK or Australia or Africa, no matter what part of the country it is, and I get these notes and emails and whatnot from parents saying, I am an Indian and I'm raising my child and I love this. Or, hey, you know what? I want to make sure my child is exposed to all different cultures. And I came across your book and it's such a great resource. Those are the ones that really touch my heart. Mm-hmm. Because if you're living in India, you're living the culture already. And it's great. I mean, of course, books, you can never have enough books. And it is a great educational tool for them. But I have to say that when I hear it from somebody living outside of India, I think that just makes my day.
I can absolutely relate to that, and I really, really, really strongly want to encourage any parent that's out there, and if you're living in a community that's pretty homogenous, it's books introducing folks from different cultures, starting with books. It's a great way to go, and raising multicultural kids it's a blessing for them. Anjanta and I were talking a little bit about my kids are raised with two cultures in our family. Mm-hmm. Every time we have Thanksgiving, there is at least, we're disappointed if there's not a half dozen languages at our Thanksgiving table. We're disappointed.
That's wonderful.
We have folks from Japan and from China and Italy and all over, and it's just it's beautiful, and it's a beautiful gift for our kids because our kids they're adults now, but they're very comfortable meeting folks of different cultures, different backgrounds, different orientations, and it just makes life better for them, and I think it makes the world a better place too.
Oh, absolutely. And you just have to start with one. That's the best thing I see is when kids would get started with our books, after that they want to experience. So they'll show up to a festival and actually experience it. And then they would say, I want to now learn about that other culture, and they'll gravitate towards other books. So I see them because a lot of these kids, I meet their parents almost every week. And so I actually see their journey of just starting from one place to going to the next, until, the world is their playground. And it's so wonderful to see that.
This is really exciting. So I'm really excited. You mentioned a couple of times this Festival of Diwali. Mm-hmm. And I know I'm familiar with it, but tell the folks, because they may not be familiar with what that is.
Oh, absolutely. So Diwali is the festival of lights from India, and it's essentially our Christmas. It is our biggest festival, where the entire country just celebrates in some way or the other. And so, of course, lights mean we light up, clay lamps all around the house. There's also fireworks. In the more recent times, the fireworks we're going towards a little more green option. Mm-hmm. But however, still, it's one of those days that's all about the joy, the celebration of light. And there is a mythological story behind it, mm-hmm. which is all about, the good winning over evil, and which is actually explained in our book as well. But the unique thing that we brought out, which I think why kids love the book, is we introduce all 5 days. A lot of people think Diwali is celebrated in one day. But the reality is that it's actually 5 days. And we talk about each 5 day and what can they do on each day to celebrate. So, for example, day one, you usually go out for shopping and you have to buy something made out of metal, or you'd buy jewelry. Day two, you'll make a specific sweet recipe, like a dessert. The third day is when the lights happen. So we kind of go through all 5 days. And we have songs and stories about the 5 days. And that, I think, really spoke to kids. So then they were like, oh, I want to celebrate all these 5 days. And the best thing is when they are the ones who lead the activity as opposed to the parent. And of course, it's such a joy for a parent to see that. But yeah, that's basically about our Diwali book. And then we have similar ones. We have, Festival of Colors, Holi. Oh my goodness, kids love it. Just imagine a whole day of just splashing color on each other, whether it's colored water, colored powder. And so when we talk about that, you can just see the smiles on everybody's faces, the way they lights up. They're like, oh, I want to do that. And so again, it starts from there, and then the book will basically, give them ideas on how they can celebrate themselves. And so it's very experiential in some sense, where you can read the book and then kind of take something from it and try it on your own.
Yeah. one of the things that I've learned about Indian culture, and there's been a lot of Indian influence in this podcast. My producer, Fatima, is from Mumbai and has been very, very instrumental in helping the podcast grow and finding great authors and writing our blog. But one thing I've learned for her is that folks in India, you don't do anything in one day. Celebration, I think her wedding went on for a month.
Yes. Yes, we have a book on Indian wedding too, where you can find out more about that. But you're absolutely right. We tend to celebrate for days.
Well, I think that's really good. You know, I mentioned Thanksgiving earlier. One of the things that I really, I think we do it right, but we're, early in the morning, we shop for the food and prep things, and there are pies made the night or two beforehand, and we spend all day together cooking, and our guests come over and they cook and they help out. But for so many people here in this country, it's, you wolf down your food and then get ready to go shopping.
Yes,
and
exactly.
that's really, it bums me out. I just,
I agree. You're absolutely right. And you'll see this theme across all of our books. So Navratri, it's a festival of 9 nights of dancing. And, we talk about, of course, all the different aspects, but you're absolutely right. It just goes on for days because I think there's something about the celebration aspect that just really, really motivates us and keeps us going. We find joys in little places, and I think festivals is one of them, which is why I think it's embraced so heavily in the Indian culture.
Now, I want to ask you, and you can be very, very honest. You won't hurt my feelings. I like dealing with reality. Do you think there's any chance that an old guy like me could ever learn how to do like those Bollywood dances? Because they're like so cool,
Yes,
okay.
yes. And we have made it possible. We have our dance videos, actually they're workout videos as well. They're available and used around the world. So we have an online portal. So if you go to bollygroove.com/on-demand, it's $9.99 a month. And through that, we show up on your big screen and you dance along with us and you learn and you get a workout.
All right. Well, we didn't mention the website where we can find out about your books. Tell folks where
Absolutely.
They can connect with you.
Yeah, for sure. So the websites are culturegroove.com and bollygroove.com. But if you search for the same names on social media, we'll also show up there. We're pretty active on our Facebook and Instagram. So find us there as well. But if you go to culturegroove.com, if you hit the books link, it'll take you directly to our Amazon shop, and you can essentially, check out the reviews, check out, what other people think, buy the books for yourself as a gift for someone else. But yeah, everything, your starting point can be culturegroove.com.
Awesome. We've been talking today to the author of Let's Celebrate Ganesha's Birthday and also the driving force behind culturegroove.com, Anjanta Chakraborty. Anjanta, thanks so much for being part of our show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Justin Dean, the author of a great new middle grade book called Awesome Dog 5000. If you are the author of a great children's book, whether it's a picture book, a board book, a middle grade book, a YA title, we would love to have you as a guest on the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Being a guest, it's fun, it's easy, and it gives you the chance to tell thousands and thousands of people about your fantastic book. To find out more, please go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the contact button. Let us know about your great book. We will let you know the next easy steps. We want to thank our guest today, Anjanta Chakraborty. Be sure to check out Let's Celebrate Ganesha's Birthday. Also want to thank my amazing producer, Fatima Khan. Be sure to check out Fatima's blog on our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Also want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. I want to thank Augie the Wonder Dog for watching my back here in the studio. And I want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.